We want to update you now on the latest developments on the Korean Peninsula. As we have been reporting, a sharp upsurge in tensions between the two Koreas today. The South Korean President Yeonpyeong says his government is taking measures to stop an artillery exchange with North Korea from escalating into all-out war. South Korean ministers are holding emergency talks after North Korea fired artillery shells onto a populated island near the maritime border. The Yonhap news agency of South Korea now confirms that a South Korean soldier is dead. At least 13 soldiers and 2 civilians are reportedly injured. Seoul says the exchange began when the North fired at least 200 rounds onto the island. South Korea responded with 80 rounds and also deployed fighter jets. Meanwhile, some residents of Yeonpyeong, the island, are now fleeing for the mainland or taking shelter in schools there. Fires are burning out of control on that island. Well, our Beijing Bureau Chief Hwanghae Cruz joins us now on the line. And Jaime, there has been a reaction from China, and China is such an important player when it comes to influence over North Korea. What are the Chinese saying?
Andrew, China has expressed concern. The spokesman of the Foreign Ministry, Mr. Hwanghae, has said that China is looking at this news closely, and he said China still needs to verify the relevant facts, but he already called on both sides to, he said, make contributions to the stability of the region, which is a diplomatic way of telling both sides to desist from escalating the tension and to cease fire. China is already hosting a visit by the U.S. Special Envoy on Korean Affairs, Stephen Bosworth. He arrived here a few hours ago after visiting Seoul and in South Korea and Japan, consulting on how to revive the six-party talks. The Chinese have hosted that. It's been stalled for several months, and the hope is that they could reconvene the six-party talks and hope for the solution of the nuclear crisis. Some analysts here think that maybe North Korea is doing this to get attention and to put the spotlight on this issue. North Koreans have said that they are willing to bargain their nuclear weapons program in exchange for economic aid as well as a security guarantee, especially from the U.S. Andrew?
So does that mean then, Jaime, that experts are linking the news which we got just a couple of days ago about North Korea's new uranium enrichment facility, which it showed to an American professor? That news just coming out a couple of days ago. Could these two events be linked?
Well, analysts here are saying that they say it's very difficult to discern what North Korea is really thinking or hoping right now, but they do see that there's already been tension even before today's developments. The tension coming from the news that the North Koreans have shown a U.S. scientist a brand new facility that's capable of enriching uranium, meaning that North Korea could restart their nuclear program anytime. The Chinese don't want to see that. And, of course, the U.S. and South Korea and their allies also do not want to see that. And so that's why there is this a frantic diplomatic flurry going on right now, trying to restart the six-party talks. Andrew?
Very much for that. Hwanghae Cruz, our Beijing Bureau Chief, joining us there from the Chinese capital. Let's get back now to journalist Andrew Salmon. He is on the line. He's in Seoul and has been watching developments there. Andrew, first of all, just give us your impressions of the reaction in Seoul to what has happened over the past few hours, because, you know, people who live in Seoul, South Koreans, are quite used to very aggressive action from North Korea. Is this one being treated differently?
It's a little bit too early to say at this point, but I would say yes, thus far it is. I'm just getting text messages and emails from South Korean friends saying, you know, to hell with both the leaders. How could they allow this to happen? You know, more Koreans being killed for no reason. So there's, and I've just come across, again, an email from a company saying, you know, urging its employees to remain calm, to go home this evening and watch developments on the news. So, yeah, this is being treated much differently to nuclear tests, missile tests, and so on. This is something new and different.
As you speak, we're looking at footage showing the island, several big plumes of smoke coming from that island. Do you know what sort of damage has been caused there?
At this point, we don't. We don't even know if there have been civilian casualties. Local news reports are stating that the civilians, as soon as this started, immediately went into shelters. We're also seeing some reports that people are fleeing the island fishing boats. It's a fairly small fishing community, about 1,700 people living there, I believe. So we don't have any indication of whether the South Korean civilians have been hit in this as yet.
Now, in many ways, the South Korean leadership it has its hands tied in exactly how it can retaliate, because the last thing it wants to do is to escalate this militarily. Andrew, what other options does it have?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I think that, Lee Myung-bak is sending rather a mixed message in his presidential statement when he said to his ministers to take a stern response, and in the same sentence, and carefully manage the situation from further escalation. So, given the difficulty of hitting entrenched, dug-in artillery in these sort of coastal caves, a military solution seems highly unlikely. I think there's going to be a call to ceasefire. There's going to be diplomatic maneuverings. There's going to be a call for the Military Armistice Commission, which oversees the ceasefire on the peninsula, to meet and to speak to the North Koreans. But at the moment, we really don't know.
Given earlier this year there was the sinking of the South Korean naval vessel, now we have an attack on South Korean soil, an artillery attack on South Korean soil. What is the impression of North Korea now from South Korea? How are people reacting? Are they hardening their opposition to all things North Korean now, or do they just see it still in terms of politics?
I think it's probably fair to say that, after 10 years of the Sunshine Policy, which was the engagement policy under the previous governments, that this current government, which is a much more conservative government, came in 2008, and for the last 2 years we've seen a much harder line towards North Korea, and I think that's generally been reflected in the public. So I don't think the South Korean public are willing to forgive this kind of incident, particularly as it follows, as you said, on the killing of 46 South Korean sailors in a suspected torpedo attack in March in this area. But I was just speaking to an expert on North Korea at one of the think tanks here. He is convinced that this is indeed linked to the Iranian issue, which you were just mentioning. The North Koreans obviously revealed that to the world in order to gain attention and to sort of bring people back to the negotiating table, which the South Koreans have been reluctant to attend. And his belief was that after the Americans showed very little reaction to the uranium-based program, he thinks this could be the result of that. He also mentioned something which I wasn't aware of, which is that the North Koreans had warned the South Koreans not to go ahead with naval exercises this morning.
All right, Andrew, very interesting piece of information. Thanks so much for joining us. Andrew Salmon joining us on the line from Seoul. And we will be continuing to speak to Andrew throughout the day as he gets more information on the situation. Has a substantial fishing population there as well. One soldier is confirmed dead. There are reports that a second soldier has died from his injuries. At least 12 or so other soldiers injured, some we believe seriously. Not yet known if there has been civilian casualties. We'll of course bring you up to date on all the news as we get it here at CNN on this latest standoff, if you can call it that, on the Korean Peninsula. You're watching Welcome back. You're watching World Business Today. Just to update you now on the latest Korean developments, and we can now confirm that a second soldier has been killed in that attack. The pictures you're looking at there, a North Korean artillery attack on a small South Korean island off the western coast, quite close to where the South Korean naval vessel was sunk. Most people believe it was sunk by North Korean torpedo. North Korea has always denied that. But this attack you're looking at right now, 200 or so artillery shells launched from North Korea. South Korea responded with about 80 of its own. That is the damage we can see there caused on that island. It did hold a military base. 2 South Korean Marines have been killed. That's according to the Korean Defence Ministry, and there also have been injuries. At last report, it was about 13 or so injuries. We don't know at this stage whether there have been civilian casualties or not, but we'll certainly continue to update you on the new developments and new information as we get it here at CNN. Well, that's it for this edition of World Business Today. Thanks for joining us. I'm Andrew Stevens in Hong Kong. We have more on developments on the Korean Peninsula in just a moment.